Okay, everyone, welcome to the candidate forum. This is the format we're going to follow. Now, we have an audio problem. I'll be asking the questions on this microphone so the audience can hear what the questions are. The candidates will just have to speak up. All right, the candidates for treasurer will go first. That will be followed by the candidates for sheriff and then county judge. The State House District 6 candidates will be next, and finally, the State Senate District 28 candidates. The candidates will be given 30 seconds to make an introductory statement. I will then ask a question, and each candidate will have 1 minute to answer. If the other or another candidate wants to rebut that answer, they will have up to 30 seconds to rebut, and any further rebuttals will be limited to 15 seconds. Donna Bramer is the timekeeper. She will raise her hand halfway through a candidate's answer to let them know their time is drawing close, and then she will raise a flag when time is up. So let's get started with the treasurer candidates. Treasurer Sandy Carter and J.P. David Thompson. All right, Sandy, would you like to make your opening statement, and Donna will time you.
Okay, my name's Sandy Carter. I'm running for re-election. Can you hear me? My name is Sandy Carter. I'm running for re-election for Boone County Treasurer. I've been in the office. This is my 17th year. I started out as deputy treasurer and worked for 2 other treasurers and then ran for the office, and I've been treasurer for 3 years now. We have managed to secure a 2.4% interest rate on our banking accounts. That's halfway.
That's halfway.
And we keep the funds for all county offices and the schools. We distribute taxes to the schools and the cities.
All right, David.
All right. Thank you guys for coming tonight. We appreciate your interest in Boone County as we all share tonight. I love Boone County. I grew up as a Boone County 4-H'er. I grew up on a Boone County farm, and after high school, I finished school, and then I went to college, and I got an agribusiness degree from the University of Arkansas. And I feel that this has enabled me to have the tools and the knowledge to manage financial records. I grew up with my parents being good examples of serving others through 4-H and the church, and instilled a strong work ethic in me on the dairy farm growing up. And at age 26, I became the youngest school board member at Lead Hill School, and I led the way for Boone County Schools to become their own treasurers. Before that had not been done. And anyway, moving on, I've been president of the John Paul Hammersmith Industrial Park Board and Arkansas Quorum Court Association. All of these, okay, is that it? All right.
All right, first question is for David. As a justice of the peace, what was the key factor in your decision to challenge Ms. Carter? And Ms. Carter, you will be allowed to rebut this answer. 1 minute each.
Okay, basically with my experience of nearly 18 years on the Quorum Court, I've come to see the need for different things to happen that maybe haven't been happening. There's some improvements that I'd like to see in the way that financial information is shared with the Quorum Court. I have some definite ideas on some practices that I would do, if elected. An example of this, there again referencing my experience on the Quorum Court, I would keep a running total of the additional expenditures. Is that it?
No, that's
okay. I would keep a running total of the additional expenditures that the Quorum Court might appropriate during the year. If you do an $8 million budget and you do another $500,000, you need to know that at the end of the year. And the changes are the reason that I'm running.
Sandy? Oh,
Yes,
are you
in
ready?
the treasurer's office, we're only allowed to do things by state statute. We are not allowed to just pick and choose what we can do. As far as giving financial information out, that is always available in my office at any time. We give a report every month to the quorum court that states that, and the additional appropriated funds can be determined at anytime anybody wants to come and ask.
Okay. All right. Now, Sandy, as treasurer, what is the hardest problem in explaining financial matters to the justices of the peace? And Mr. Thompson, you will be able to rebut her answer.
I don't think that explaining the situation to the justices of the peace is hard. I know that they need to have a full understanding of the amount of monies that come in, how the budgeting process works as far as my part of that, which is just to do projected revenues for each department. I am not the person who does their budgets, and the quorum court then approves those budgets, and sometimes that doesn't quite get through to them. There's not really anything else. They pretty much know what we're talking about each night. And they have a question, they can come ask me at any time.
You ready? David?
Okay, well, I'm certainly not suggesting doing anything out of state law. First thing for everybody in government or in anything else is to stay within the lines on the law. The items and the ideas that I'm talking about are basically stem from my experience on the quorum court and some things that we have wanted to know, that I've actually done a few reports and some compilations of numbers, and I feel like that would be better served if maybe that was provided by the full-time person instead of the part-time people.
Okay. All right, this is a question that for both of you, and I will start with Ms. Carter. Is there a way to streamline the operation of the treasurer's office?
In the 17 years I've been in the office, we've streamlined it. It's pretty straightforward. There are no additional routes that I feel at this time we can take to make things easier. We have it down to a pretty good way of doing things. We make sure we know how much money is in the bank at all times. We make sure which funds are each entity within the county, how much money they have to spend at all times, and we work closely with the county clerk's office for payroll and accounts payable.
David?
I just want to streamline the information process. Like I said, in the past, sometimes we've had to research some of the stuff on our own, and I've done a few reports on finances and on numbers and everything. But I think the full-time person that's there all the week needs to be the ones that compiles that and gathers it for the quorum court and for anybody else that may want the information. All this information is open to the public.
Okay. All right, and last question is we'll start with Ms. Carter again. What does the treasurer's office need that it doesn't have?
Oh, I think the treasurer's office has what we need to operate efficiently and in the best interest of the county. I feel like that with the COVID situation, our offices need to be expanded a little so that we have that separation for if and when we ever have another situation where we have to have that taking the distance part of it. We always are willing to give anybody any information they need. Anytime that Mr. Thompson has worked on any of the reports he's talking about, he's gotten the information from our office and compiled that.
read your question again?
Yes, what does the treasurer's office need that it does not have?
Well, I would say mainly me as treasurer. But beyond that, they have the software. There are budgets. Like I said, I've got the experience. We've been doing the budget for the whole county for nearly 18 years. Of that, I've been on the Budget and Finance Committee all of those years and chairman for several of those years. And we've always tried to provide the things that all the offices across the county need. Years ago on the school board, we always said that nobody is 100% efficient. I don't necessarily think that there's inefficiencies there. I just want to expand the information and get it out to the right people.
Okay.
And I think that would streamline the process.
All right, thank you all very much. And you get to take your name cards with you. Actually, please take your name cards with you. All right, if the sheriff candidates would please come up. We have Chief Deputy Roy Martin and Mark Forsey.
Y'all see my hand? This means 30 seconds. Has been gone. It's gone. This means you've got to stop.
All right, you'll have 30 seconds for an opening statement. Mr. Forsey, let's start with you because we don't really have a true incumbent in this race.
My name is Mark Forsey. I've spent 22 years as a catastrophic insurance investigator for fraud. I've done fraud cases on arson, theft of property, loss of life for insurance policies. I've worked with multiple entities, sheriff's office, city police, fire departments, mayor's offices, OEM offices in 48 states and also Puerto Rico. I took on the bid for a candidate for the sheriff's office because I believe that we're in a constitutional crisis.
My name's Roy Martin. I'm running for Boone County Sheriff. I've got 31 years experience with Arkansas Highway Police. When our former sheriff left, Sheriff Tim Robinson was appointed, made me Chief Deputy. I've had that position for the last 2 years in the Boone County Sheriff's Office. And I think we've made a lot of good changes in the department. And the team that we have in place now, if I'm elected your sheriff, I'm going to keep them in place, the ones that's down there, and we're going to continue to do a good job for the citizens of Boone County.
All right, first question, and we'll start with Roy. According to the Centers for Disease Control, Arkansas was in the top 10 states for firearms deaths in 2020. Now, the state legislature once passed a bill prohibiting local authorities from enforcing federal gun laws. That was struck down, but would you support similar legislation, and why or why not?
That's a question. You're talking about the bill where they passed where we were going to be, they were going to take the powers away from the Boone County Sheriff?
Yeah. Well, yeah. That the
I
local.
can hear you better without that mic.
Okay. That the local authorities would not be forced, or they would be prohibited from enforcing federal gun laws.
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot of good federal gun laws in place now. Arkansas has a lot of good gun laws in place now. I know they were talking at one time about the hate crime bills and that stuff. I think that's where that all come out of. I think we've got enough bills as far as laws on the books that we've got enough laws to handle the guns as far as controlling them. I mean, nobody wants the federal government to come in here and try to take our guns, but we're not going to let that happen. I will promise you that. The federal government's not going to tell me, and my deputies are not going to go out and take the guns from anybody.
Mark?
When you're talking about the funded federal gun laws, I think you're talking about the red flag laws and stuff like that. No red flag law is constitutional. You cannot take firearms from people without due process. We have to have due process on this. And I think Roy and I stand eye to eye on this. We won't stand for any agency that coming in, a three-letter agency from the federal government, and start confiscating guns. The things we can do is double check our background checks. We have those laws in place. The federal government has those laws in place. Now, do we need to do a better job in streamlining those background checks and stuff that we have in place, and for felons and stuff? Absolutely. But as far as taking guns away from the citizens of the United States, absolutely not.
All right, we'll start with, well, here, can all the people in the room hear me?
We can hear you better.
I can hear you a lot
Okay,
better, James.
all right.
Like that.
The Court of Appeals ruled in 2018 on the permitless carry of firearms in the state. Do you think there should be training required to be qualified to carry a gun in Arkansas? Mark?
As far as the Constitution says nothing to that. It says it shall not be infringed on. Now, do I recommend anybody that I come in contact with that talks to me about concealed carry or talks to me about open carry, you know, I have the advice to them: if you are not familiar with that weapon, don't carry it, because you're endangering yourself and the public on top of everything going on. And as sheriff of the Boone County, I will be sponsoring through the Boone County Sheriff's Office for training. We have a lot of wonderful people around this community that do training and stuff like that, and weapons training. And as the sheriff, I will be sponsoring those for community training.
I definitely believe anybody that's going to carry a weapon, as far as in the state, needs to probably have some basic training, and to get, of course, the Attorney General said that as far as open permit, as far as open carry, that the citizens of Arkansas are able to do that. Now, if you have a concealed handgun license, then you're not allowed to do that. But anyway, yes, I think they need training. I think if anybody's going to carry a weapon, concealed or open, I think they need to have some training on that, at least give them the basics. And like Mark said, we have a lot of people here in town that give that concealed handgun carry class, and they're well qualified to do that. And I think most people that carries a weapon, concealed or open, ever how they carry it, I think most of them have the training to be able to do that.
All right, what can be done to make the office you're seeking run more smoothly? And we'll start with Roy this time.
Well, there's always going to be places for improvement in the Sheriff's Department. One thing that we're always going to battle at the Sheriff's Department is going to be salaries. You know, when you got them on the state level making $20,000 or $25,000 more than your deputies, that's hard to battle. Sometimes we're a training ground. You know, right now we've done a lot in the last 2 years down there. We put computers in the cars. We went to a new system, RPS system. We've created a central dispatch. That's where the city, county, and 911's all together. That's in the old Sheriff's Department. We've made a lot of changes since we're down there. One thing we're battling right now is cars. Can't get any cars. But we just try to make that a good work environment for the guys. And the sheriff does that and tries to make people want to come to work. If they're happy with their job, then they're going to be more they're going to be more to try to serve the citizens of Boone County.
Okay, Mark?
As far as advancing the sheriff's office, one of the things I've done as an investigator is streamlining on IT work. A lot of our criminal activity now has come to online child pornography, fraud, cyber cases, and stuff like that. So I think we need to bring up our IT department within the sheriff's office to streamline that more efficiently. We also need to look at looking at some of our facility as far as the capability of equipment. We need better equipment for, I personally would put in for our jailers. They would all have shank-proof vests. Our jail also, we got some units without any cameras. We need to get cameras in those units. And like Roy said, making a happy environment for all the department and staff. When everybody feels like they're not being beat down and they're being allowed to do their job, that's motivation to come to work.
All right. Now, is there something in the office that you could change and still stay within your duties to uphold the Constitution? Anything that can be done without specific legislation to change it? And Mark, we'll start with you on this one.
That's kind of an open question.
That's a wide open question.
I mean, well, you
Where
know,
did you get these questions?
you know,
I would like to know that.
but to answer that question, I'll go with it. You know, things that we can change in the constitutional aspect. You know, the Constitution, when you look at the Constitution, it says to have probable cause. I always changed that when I trained all my investigators to absolute probable cause. As long as you got absolute probable cause, you don't have to worry about breaking the Constitution. Let's take the drug factor. I just talked to some folks the other day. They got a farm. They're actually thinking about leaving their farm and moving into Harrison because the drug trafficking across their farm is getting outrageous. It takes time. We have to get undercovers in there. We have to make buys in there. And we have funding under the account to buy those drugs and make those buys. So this is what we need to do constitutionally to take down those things. Now, as we need to have absolute on DUIs, in other words, officers seeing and following. I'll tell you right now that DUI checkpoints are unconstitutional. You cannot ask somebody and pull them over without absolute probable cause.
As far as the Constitution, that seems like that gets brought up a lot anymore. All my oaths I've ever took have always been to uphold the Constitution. And I'm definitely going to do that. But I take an oath for the federal plus the state Constitution when I was working for the state, when I was a JP, when you was a city council member. People's got to understand, I know that they get to talking about, and we've got these little pockets all around the county where we know there's drug activity going there. There's drug activity there, but you just can't go out there and start arresting people. Like you say, you've got to have reasons to go out there and do that. You've got to build cases there. And it's hard to do sometimes. It's hard to do sometimes, and it's a time factor. It may take 6 months to get in this house. And we know they're dealing drugs there, but it takes time to get so you can go in there and take care of that.
All right. Thank y'all very much.
Okay.
Two more. Okay. All right.
All we're at.
Oh, yes. Now the county judge candidates, please. Judge Robert Hathaway and JP Bobby Woods. We're close. 6:24. I told you I thought we could do it in a half hour, but not quite.
Halfway, gotta stop.
Okay, for opening statements, you'll each get 30 seconds to make an opening statement, and we'll start with Judge Hathaway first.
I'm Robert Hathaway. I'm running for re-election for Boone County Judge. I've been county judge for the past 8 years. I need to talk louder. I've been county judge for the past 8 years. I worked with the road department for 26 as an operator and a road foreman and supervisor. Halfway?
That's half.
Okay. You know, I don't own my own business. My vision is the road department. My focus is always on the county, and I gotta stop.
Bobby?
Yes, my name is Bobby Woods. I grew up in Boone County, graduated from Berkman High School and also North Arkansas College. I've always been involved in farming and for a short time in poultry business. I've been self-employed since age 19, been in the real estate business since age 21. As of February 22, I had 42 years in the real estate business, traveling all over the county, working with all the people in all areas of Boone County. I'm currently serving my 6th year as Boone County JP District 6, which has given me a view of the county's business and operation. I believe the experience that I have gained from the real estate business and being self-employed, the end.
Not long.
Pretty short.
Pretty short.
Don't hate me.
That's why you're the timekeeper. Nobody will hit you. Okay. First question, we'll start with the judge again. There's a move afoot to abolish the state income tax, but that could mean counties and municipalities have to raise local taxes due to a lack of state turnback funds. How would that affect Boone County?
Well, it would affect them pretty hard. You know, a lot of our money for our road department stuff is from turnback money, fuel tax and stuff like that. So we'd have to find another way, you know, coming up with the revenue. And that may mean raising taxes or millages and stuff like that. Right now, we probably have the lowest millage, I think, in the state of Arkansas. So it could always be raised, but, you know, I'm not for that because, you know, we need, people want good roads, they're gonna have to pay for them. And I can keep going?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, all that money, you know, we get 3 cents on the dollar for our revenue tax, or our income tax, or, I'm sorry, real estate tax. The schools get 85 cents on the dollar. The college gets 5 cents. 3 cents on the dollar doesn't go a long ways. So, you know, we depend on that turnback money to help us continue maintaining the roads.
All right, Bobby?
Okay, of course, certainly the loss of revenue would be important to the county. I'm not sure exactly how many dollars come from that revenue. Glancing here at the February 22 Treasurer's Report, it shows highway turnback money to be $106,735. That might not be that difficult to overcome, but I'm not sure if there's more money involved than that in other aspects of county government other than roads. The county does have the ability to raise the road millage to 5 mills versus 3 mills, which might become necessary at that point. But would just be something we'd have to look at and wade through. I'm not for raising taxes if there's any way around it.
Okay. All right, we'll start with Bobby this time. The county is in the process of buying the building where the First Presbyterian Church currently meets to relocate county offices. Was this the right move for the county to make?
The building is, we were in a position where we needed to do something. The building was an opportunity to do that. I think if we had a choice, we would put it in a different location. I've had several comments from the public about the location and the traffic in that area at the 7:30 to 8 o'clock hour when school's taken up and people will be going to work there at the building, and courts will be taken up probably at 8 o'clock or close to it. So there could be some traffic problems there. Of course, there is a traffic light, but the building itself is not a bad buy. It sounds like, and it is a terrific lot of money, $5.5 million by the time you get done with the renovation. But there's 43,000 square feet there, and it divides out to $128 a square foot. So for that type of building and the construction and design, it's I don't believe it's a bad buy at all. But the location, you know, like I said, if we had a choice, we could have a better location.
Judge?
What Bobby said was right. You know, we looked for over a year for a building, and you know, we had a couple we looked at and stuff, and that didn't work out. So this was the building that came to perfect time. At the time, I got word that the building might be for sale, so I approached them about it, and they said they was more than willing to sell it and needed to sell it, and we needed to buy a building. So it fit us with the land and the size of the building and stuff. It fit our needs, you know, perfectly. You know, we'll be able to make a one-stop shop there, I think. We'll have our courts and our offices there. Our assessor and collector will be back together like they should. And so hopefully, you know, it'll work out good. We got room for expansion there too, and that's always a good deal.
Okay. All right, now some people are opposed to the federal government being involved in local matters, yet FEMA has required mitigation plans in order to be eligible for disaster funds. How important is it to comply with those federal regulations?
Who you asking?
We'll go with you first.
Okay. I didn't hear that whole question.
Okay. There are some people who are opposed to the federal government being involved in local matters, yet FEMA has required mitigation plans in order to be eligible for disaster funds. How important is complying with those federal regulations?
Well, you know, some of those regulations, I don't want to say you can get around them. I've been dealing with FEMA for over 20-some years with low water crossing, flooding, and different disasters. We do have a hazardous mitigation plan, which we had passed, and so far that seems to be suffice what they're asking us for. You know, we've never been turned down other than last year for FEMA grants, and last year we was turned down because the state didn't have enough disaster for us to be able to claim what we had. So, you know, I think someday we're going to see a time come when, you know, we may have to re-examine this, look at floodplain zoning and stuff. I hope not, because I'm against that.
Bobby?
Okay, we did pass that hazard mitigation plan sometime in the last several months. Someone with the Northwest Arkansas Economic Development District prepared that. She put 2 or 3 years into preparing it. The mitigation means to do things to deter flooding or various problems that they're working with, and I think that's all a good idea. Any regulations that are out there, I think it's important to follow them if they're regulations that are required, certainly. And I know that it's on the bridges, the slabs that we build to get FEMA money, that it's a requirement to follow their instructions and their building specs. So I think it's important to follow all regulations. And I don't see a big problem following this hazard mitigation plan with anything yet.
All right. What could the county judge's office do to try and increase the quality of life in this area? And we'll start with Bobby.
Well, that's something I haven't thought of. The quality of life in this area is very good, and we have people that are moving here continually for the quality of life that we have in this area. We have Buffalo River 30 minutes to the south. We have 2 lakes 30 minutes to the north. We have entertainment at Branson, which is not close by. What more quality of life would you want? The community center that the city is working on and developing will provide quality of life to some for various aspects of people might like theirs. So what can we do in addition to that? Possibly improve county services and improve county roads could assist with the quality of life. I'm sorry.
Judge?
I agree with Bobby on that. We've got a good quality of life here in Boone County. We're growing quickly, and that's hence the reason for the new building. Every day I see new people coming in, and as realtors, I know the realtors are always telling me they have no new houses for sale or, you know, anything to even rent hardly. As far as the roads go, we work with what we have right now. You've got to get people on board to be willing to change the roads. You got to have the landowners agreeing to give you the right-of-way and the easements. And so, you know, everything depends on being able to get everybody on board for the right things to do.
All right, thank y'all very much. Let's give them a round of applause. There's two, I believe. There's supposed to be two, I believe. All right, we're going to do the House District 6 race, which is Harlan Breaux and Brian Ayers. I don't know that, I don't believe Mr. Breaux is here tonight. And after this, we'll take a short break before we get into all these other Senate candidates.
Well, hello. My name is Brian Ayers. I'm going to stand up. Maybe you can hear me. I see people saying you can't hear. So I'm representing the House of Representatives, District 6, which is the northern part of Boone County, Lead Hill, Omaha, Diamond City to the Marion County line. So I know, you know, several of you here probably aren't in that, but I hope some of you are anyway. But I'm a lifelong Carroll County resident that recently retired from Carroll Electric Cooperative in Berryville. Worked in member services there, and my wife and I live in Oak Grove, which is near the Missouri line, near Blue Eye, Missouri. And we ran a poultry and cattle farm. Actually, she ran the poultry and cattle farm, and I was her hired hand until I got fired. And so now I'm running for political office, and I would really appreciate you guys' vote.
Okay. All right, so this will be fairly easy since you're the only one to answer the question. Okay, there's talk of doing away with state income tax. If that is accomplished, it might make it to where the local governments have to raise local taxes because government does not work without funding. Now, is that just a dodge to take the blame for taxes off of state officials and put it on local ones? And another part of this is, what other fees do you see that might have to be raised to make up for that revenue?
Okay. Well, I'm really not real versed on the tax situation, to be honest with you. This is my first year into politics, and I can see where it could cause problems, taking away all the tax. I certainly don't think that the government should be involved in any of our stuff, that we can keep them out of. That's great, but I agree they're going to have to come up with something, and I hate to see it in local taxes. I would really rather see them keep the federal tax and mitigate it somehow so that it's not as high as it is. So that's the best I can do on that.
Okay, and that's, yeah, do this. Then I'll follow up on that one with, do you think other fees like licensing cars or something like that would have to be raised to make up for funding from the state income tax?
Gosh, I sure hate to see them do that to vehicles. They're already taxing them 3 or 4 times whenever you buy and sell vehicles. So I really don't see that as one. You know, I'm not sure where all that tax revenue is going to be replaced unless it's with some other type of tax. It seems like they give you a cut in one place and they raise it somewhere else, and you end up paying about the same. So, you know, they may be saying they're going to cut that income tax, but I can't see the government working without some sort of income.
Okay. All right. Now, in talking to some healthcare professionals, I've been told that American drug companies sell prescription drugs in other countries for pennies on the dollar compared to the U.S. market. Can the state of Arkansas influence that disparity?
Well, I think we've got lots of influence, but I think it goes beyond Arkansas. We're going to have to get into the federal level for that type of rework. I don't see where Arkansas can have enough influence to change things in other countries where where a lot of the drugs are coming from. Does that answer that?
I was talking more about the fact that the American drug companies sell their prescription drugs in other countries for pennies on the dollar compared to here in the United States.
Oh, okay.
But
I'm sorry.
Can the state do anything about that, or is that going to be a federal issue?
I think it's a federal issue, sure do.
Okay. All right. All right, let's consider the case of a man who inherits 70 acres from his father's farm. He's running 30 or so head of cattle on it and falls off the tractor while he's on the farm. He's treated for injuries and then gets a $300,000 bill he can't pay, and it leads to bankruptcy. Can the state help him out?
That's a good question, but again, I don't see that the state can take over everyone's health bills like that. I think the federal government has that pretty well in check now, and I don't want to see Arkansas have to start standing for all the bills of what the federal's doing right now. So no, I don't think so.
Okay. All right, finally. Last Friday, the governor told the Associated Press that he was considering calling a special legislative session later this year to address the state's surplus, which could hit $1 billion by the end of the fiscal year. Now, he made some suggestions, like expanding broadband and other things like that. But where do you think that surplus funds should be spent?
I think I mentioned a little earlier I was on the school board in Green Forest. Maybe I didn't, but I was on the school board for several years, and I would really like to see extra income go to the schools in some fashion. I know in Carroll County they have something called Connect 4, where they educate students that really aren't maybe cut out for college. They give them training in plumbing, welding, carpenter, that type of trades that we need really bad. So I would like to see more of that money going to our future, and that'd be education, and to those folks that maybe aren't going to go to college.
All right, thank you very much. Give Mr. Ayers a round of applause. We're going to take a short break, give about 5 minutes to stretch your legs if you would like to, and then we'll get these Senate candidates up here. And gentlemen, if I could, people are complaining that they cannot hear.
Hang on a second, Jake. Could we quiet down, please, just a little bit? It's hard. This isn't working real good, but if we could just quiet down a little bit and let's see if we can hear a little better.
Okay, it might be best if you stand up when you make your response, and that way it may project a little better. So each of you will get 30 seconds for an opening statement, and we'll start just from the left with Mr. Ballinger.
All right, Senator Bob Ballinger. So I've represented this district, well, not this district, the district that we're in since 2018. You know, from way back when I first ran for office, I started putting on my push cards, pro-gun, pro-life, pro-family, pro-constitution. Just kind of letting people know where I stand. And then I went and voted that way. So if you look, you know, I'm the only one endorsed by Arkansas Right to Life, only one endorsed by the NRA, only one in the legislature with an A+ with the NRA. And the reason for that is because I've done what I said I do. My voting record is consistent, and it's there. So I'm happy to answer any questions people have.
I'm Bob Largent, and I'm not in the Senate, and I'm not a politician, but I'm running for District 28 State Senate because it's important to have someone in Little Rock that has the same basic, and by the way, all 5 of us have those same basic values. Pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-parental control. I'm going to go down to Little Rock with the leadership that I've gained over 24 years in the Air Force and 20 years in business and make a difference.
Hey, I'm Ted Walker. I won't have a problem projecting my voice. I retired 38 years Command Sergeant Major. Something about a Command Sergeant Major, when we look at our soldiers and we look at leaders, we look at them for loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. As they answer their questions, look past the words, look past their eyes, look into their heart.
I'm Representative Keith Slape, former sheriff of Newton County for 6 terms. I've been representative for southern Boone County in this part, all of Newton and southern Carroll for this is my 4th year. I'd like to continue work. My district has moved. I'd love to come in and work as your senator. Thank you.
I'm Brian King, and I represented Boone County in the Western Boone County, Arkansas House. I won 2 elections there. I did grow up close in Carroll County. I attended North Ark College down here for 2 years. I played baseball, was later a distinguished alum, recognized from there from helping North Ark. I spent a career in the legislature helping people from Boone County. I'm endorsed by Crystal Grady. The Boone County people know that I've worked with them down there in the legislature, and I look forward to doing it again, and I just appreciate it. What I'm most proud of is my family taught me financial responsibility. So.
Don't forget, hand is halfway, okay? Flag has got to stop.
You done.
Okay, according to Centers for Disease Control statistics, the rate of drug overdose deaths in Arkansas was higher than the number of firearms deaths attributed to homicide in 2020. Now, aside from closing the southern border, because that's an easy answer and there would be no illicit drug smuggling problem without a market, how should the state address the problem of drug overdose deaths? And we'll start with Mr. Ballinger again.
So, I spent years working as a addiction counselor, a faith-based addiction program, working with addicts, struggling with them, opened my home to them, and actually had some fruit out of that. But honestly, as a legislator, there's some things we can do, which we have done, make it a little harder with prescription drugs. But every time that you do that, you also make it harder for people who are dealing with pain to get their medicine. Honestly, every societal problem doesn't have a governmental answer. Most of the major societal problems don't have a governmental answer. We can do some things. We can increase the penalty for drug dealers, which we've done, and honestly, we can keep people locked up longer. We can increase our prison size. All those things that are generally addressing crime, which we're doing. But honestly, the biggest thing is your churches need to open it up. You guys all should have an addiction ministry because right now we need it. Your mamas, stop enabling your babies and get them some help. But those are family issues, those are church issues, those are community issues, and honestly, for the most part, the state can't fix that.
There is no doubt a serious issue with drugs in this new district of 6 counties. 87,000 people, it's a large percentage, I'm sure. I think in the state Senate, there's not a lot, I would agree with Bob, that we can do except increase the penalties for the real drug dealers, not the folks who have smoked marijuana one time, but the serious drug dealers. This goes back to strong borders. It's not a state issue, but it is a national, federal issue. We've got to have strong borders, protection from the drug dealers that are delivering these drugs across the state.
I love this. This is the first chance we've actually got to answer questions. Cause and effect. Everything has a cause and effect, and everything is interrelated. All right, if we're not building a jail in Madison County, we've got to set people free. If we're not holding politicians accountable for having their hands soaked by the pharmacies or the pharmaceutical companies, then there's more drugs out there on the road. Everything, there's all parts of it. If we clean up every little part, then it's gonna be the big part. All right, but in order to do that, you gotta have confidence that the people in office are actually doing that. And that we don't have. So that's the first step.
Well, that's a good question, James. We've been hearing some of your questions, and we're curious why you would bring something like this up. Just, do you know anybody that might can help you? Been there, done that. That's a twofold thing that we got to do. Number one is the prison system on that, and the truth of sentencing in our. Right now, we've got folks that's constantly going back out into the our society that has created a lot of this stuff because all the cartel drugs that's coming into our state. Once we do, they have to spend the time. They don't need to do a sixth of the time of their sentence and then right back out on the street doing it again. And they also have to see the charges. This is a long ordeal, comprehensive, to deal with the prison, but we've got to take care of that issue, take care of the prison so we can send the dealers in, and then we can work with the addicts themselves. It's not their fault, but those who are capitalizing off those death things, they need to go to prison.
You know, I want to recognize Ted because I think he came up with a good answer. I talked about being elected in 2006. Medicaid budget in the state of Arkansas was $3.145 billion when Governor Huckabee and I was down there and he was going out. The last appropriation bill is $8 billion. That's a 250% increase. Drugs and the people that make the money off of it. What's happened in government, and the question you had earlier about why it's cheaper and other things, is the pharmaceutical companies and the amount of play that they have in the government. In Washington, D.C., in my 12 years, and a lot of people I dealt with, they went into the Food and Drug Administration. They went out, became a lobbyist, they came in. Arkansas legislature. I have 5 or 6 former colleagues of mine that are either in federal prison right now for corruption or waiting to go. And that is what is happening. You have them come out, they go to be a lobbyist. Same thing in Arkansas. We've got to start going after pharmaceutical companies and the amount of government power that they have and limit it. And it first starts with the people. And I recognize Ted for saying that. And that is exactly what happened in Arkansas. Like I said, it went out in 2006. When all this money comes in, if there's money to be made off drugs, whether it's a pharmaceutical company or a drug dealer, they're going to try and make it.
Mr. Largent, and going to talk about healthcare just a little bit. There have been complaints, even from families of veterans, that some healthcare providers have stopped accepting our kids' insurance because the reimbursement rate is lower than their expense for treatment. Would you be willing to convince your fellow legislators to exempt healthcare providers who accept state Medicare expansion programs from paying state income taxes? Would you exempt healthcare providers who accept Medicare expansion programs from paying state income taxes?
Good question. And certainly healthcare suffers today. I'm not certain at this point that I would say let's exempt all of the healthcare providers that do honor Medicaid and our kids. I'm not sure anybody could do that with without an awful lot of research to understand the impact that would have. Something has to be done when healthcare providers are not given the opportunity to provide the health care. They're penalized if they do. We've got to take a serious look. I would not have a direct answer, but it's got to be addressed. Yes.
Yes. Answer is yes. And here's why I know that. TRICARE only pays out a portion. If anybody's familiar with the military, TRICARE is only going to pay out a portion. Fewer and fewer providers are taking TRICARE patients because they don't get their money. They have to have their money too. So we get insurance, and we meet the bill when it comes to the requirement, but the doctors aren't taking us in because they're not getting their money. So if we can cut that they have to pay state income tax and able to make their money that way, then absolutely, because the backside of that is how many veterans and how many of the elderly are not going to get treated because the doctors aren't going to take them.
Some of that we've addressed in fiscal session. The last one we got, we're trying to get the payments up. You'll see some of the money that the former Senator King was talking about. That's part of the budget. We've had to raise it up to get that. There's too many folks getting cut out of it, so we have on that. The other thing that would kind of prohibit us from giving them the tax break would be DF&A having to adjust all their stuff, which in actuality could cost us more than giving the tax break at that time, that it would cost to get DF&A to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a question that I got asked with on the campaign trail. And what happens is you have a lot of Medicaid providers that are going out because they have to play by the rules. And then you have other Medicaid providers that somehow are getting rich out of this. And you look at the nursing home industry here in Arkansas, one of the big nursing home magnates here, he has corporate jets, yet he gets Medicaid money. You go down the street and another Medicaid entity is struggling to make it. What's happening is everybody is playing by the same rules, and what you have is a lot of waste and fraud and abuse in Medicaid and DHS. And I was on Fox News back in 2015 when we found out, and I kept after DHS, that they were not doing redetermination on Medicaid enrollees. We found out there was 50,000 people on Arkansas Medicaid that were either dead, in prison, or not even living in the state, or fictitious identities. You start cutting out the waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicaid, you're talking about a lot of money. But these nursing home magnates that have the corporate jets and stuff like that, they're the ones paying the politicians. It's like exactly what I'll go back to Ted said. Legislator after legislator has ties back to these Medicaid entities, and it needs to be exposed, and people on this panel have opposed that.
The easy and short answer is yes, but most of us are saying that we'd like to phase out income tax in general anyway. So that's, I mean, getting there at some point. One thing that'll be a little bit awkward is how do you do that, right? So now we've got to decide how do we make that transition, and it's not easy to do. I mean, I think the easier way to do that is by working on the waste, fraud, and abuse in the Medicaid system, rearranging how we fund it, and make sure that there's enough money going to the Our Kids program to make sure that that program is actually funded adequately. But from my standpoint, the best way to do it is across the board, make it where nobody is having to pay income tax, and then that won't be an issue.
Okay, we'll start. This is the lightning round. We'll start with Mr. Walker. Would you consider your political philosophy more in line with Benjamin Franklin, Theodore Roosevelt, or Ronald Reagan?
Little Theodore Roosevelt, but more Ronald Reagan. All right, carry a big stick, speak softly, that kind of thing. But Ronald Reagan is speak with integrity. And when I look at the people, look them in the eyes, and lay everything out on the table legit. You can sit here and say that we're going to look at the healthcare industry, and oh, by the way, my biggest contributor is from the healthcare industry. So where's my accountability? Where's my loyalty? Where is the legitimacy of this going on? All right. So Ronald Reagan's been a hero of mine. He brought everybody together, but he was honest, and that's kind of where I'm at. That answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like all three. But during the pandemic, it's probably Benjamin Franklin's one I thought the most about. He said, who'd ever give up a temporary some of your liberties for security deserve neither. And that's brought it out on this with the mask mandates and these mandates. What would Franklin think about that? Would he say, are you willing to give up your liberties to be safe from the pandemic? Or should you forget about the mandates, follow the Constitution on that?
I'm going to kind of quote both of them. Teddy Roosevelt was talking about the corporations at the time and going out and busting up the monopolies. They asked me in the Madison County Record, I'm a farmer. That's what I've done all my life. And, what needs to happen in agriculture? Right now you have 3 packers that control 80% of the market. And you know what? That's not capitalism, that's controlism. Corporations are feeding the money to the politicians, pharmaceutical, everything like that, and there needs to be accountability, transparency, disclosure between the legislature and that. That just quite hadn't happened in Little Rock. And, you know, I think Ronald Reagan talked about taxes and spending. Right now in Arkansas, you have less government. Republicans say they're less government. They're spending record amounts of money. The second biggest contributor to the national debt is state legislators. They spend $6 billion of your tax dollars, and remember, it was $4.5 billion when I went in, 75% increase in spending, mostly under Republicans that claim to be less government. So there's some differences in that. It needs to get down, and the spending needs to get right. Waste, fraud, and abuse. I gave the example of what I did on Fox News that did billions of dollars worth of damage to Arkansas.
I'd say of those three, Ronald Reagan would be it. But it's mainly because Ronald Reagan, the people who influenced Ronald Reagan. So, you know, there's several different writers that Ronald Reagan, in fact, you know, he originally was a Democrat at one time. And then over the years, he kind of grasped onto some of the ideas of the founders. Not just Benjamin Franklin, but Thomas Jefferson, James Madison. And he became what would be considered a classical liberal, or became what would be considered a limited government constitutionalist, and that's what I'd be. I mean, I love Ronald Reagan's. Anybody in here heard the Ronald Reagan speech, the Goldwater speech that he had, where he said there's a time for choosing, I think that's what it's called. And it's just basically a call saying, like, we have a choice. We can either be a nation that goes towards socialism, and this is back in 1968 that he's saying this. We need to be a nation going towards socialism, or we can be a nation that agrees that we can take care of ourselves best, and that some people in a faraway capital doesn't have the ability to choose for us. And so that's kind of my philosophy in government.
Whoever picked the three did a great job. Ben Franklin was a thought leader in today's terms. Roosevelt was a force to be reckoned with, and Reagan, who I had the opportunity to work for, he was bold. So each of them brings something to the table. The uniqueness of all three of them is their ability to collaborate with others to make decisions. I think I would relate, depending upon the situation, to each of the three.
All right, now at this time we'll start with Mr. Slade. 20 years ago, I would never have asked this question of the state legislature candidates, but things have changed. Arkansas is a trigger state where abortion would be banned if the U.S. Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade. The special session the governor is considered in calling would be after the Supreme Court rules on Mississippi's 15-week abortion ban, and the session might also address that. Would you consider any exemptions on behalf of the mother?
The only exemptions I would think that I would consider on would definitely be rape or incest, and that is the only two exemptions I would do on that. Abortion, I'm pro-life. Abortion for population control is just wrong in my thought. You know, the mothers have got a tough decision to make, but if it comes down to rape and incest, that should be up to the mother, or if there is a life altering or a life threat to the mother.
So those questions have been asked, and in 2018 I was endorsed by Right to Life, filled out their survey. I have been a pro-life legislator, and you know, it's a very tough issue, and you know, we have to handle it very much, where we have to have our positions and be compassionate and understanding whenever those tough decisions. Understand most of those are very small percentage of the abortions that happen in the life of the mother, or rape or incest. You know, right now the life of the mother and that decision, you know, rape and incest would be the only considerations. But once again, we're reacting to what the federal government and Supreme Court does. And so you just, you know, some of these things you have to wait, but that's the way I filled my survey out.
I have 5 daughters. And I couldn't imagine the situation if one of my daughters were raped. It would break my heart. But if you believe that the little baby is a person, if it is a life, you know, if you're a pro-life and it is a life, you don't punish the baby because of an evil father. We don't do that in our society. We don't kill them because, so my position would be the life of the mother. If you're in a tough situation where you have, like, very rare, it's a ectopic pregnancy or something like that, where truly the life of the mother is at stake, well, that'd be between doctor, parents, and all that. But I'd say be careful then, because a lot of times people say, hey, this could risk your life, and then they have a baby, and they got this wonderful baby that's alive, and mama stays alive. So it should be really careful. But I'm endorsed by Arkansas Right to Life because I'm pretty much unwavering on that issue.
Always one of the toughest questions I think anybody can be asked, but abortion is murder, period. And I think we all had the opportunity to fill out the Arkansas Right to Life survey. I'm convinced that we all answered it the same way. That organization has a policy that they only endorse the incumbent candidate.
Kind of funny, because one of my college classes I took in this school right here, and that was one of the topics that we discussed, because he told me, he said, you got to pick a topic that's going to stir up the crowd. Well, there ain't nothing that stirs that up more than that. So this is my stance on it. When it comes down to a baby, I look at it as if I put a child right there in the middle of that floor and say, now, is there any adult in this room that will rather me take that baby's life than your life? It comes down to that simple. See, empathy is something that a lot of the people don't understand. I've been there. The doctor told us we needed to abort Andrea. We didn't. Andrea's born. She's got 2 baby boys now. All right? We don't know what God's plan is on that other side. You know, and like he said, or like it was said, to have a baby pay the price of an evil father, or to say that it was a mistake and have them pay the price for a mistake. That's wrong. You know, I can't look at any of my kids and say, you're not worth my life.
Okay. Mr. King, this one we'll start with you. A Boone County Circuit judge just this week gave cursory approval for a plan to reimburse taxpayers for the $18 fee they paid on their property taxes for 3 consecutive years as a result of the solid waste district fiasco. There is a substantial chance that bondholders will appeal the lower court's decisions that the fee was unconstitutional and take that to the Supreme Court. Please give us your thoughts on the $18 fee and the likelihood of it remaining to be considered unconstitutional.
We talk about following the Constitution in Arkansas. You're supposed to, the title of the bill in the Constitution, you're supposed to follow what they're. The reason that $18 issue, and James, you covered it back 4 years ago when it came up, was that as I talked about the corruption, Jeremy Hutchison put an amendment on that bill, on the 80Q appropriation bill, that allowed the bondholders to be repaid. It was clear. You know what? Jeremy Hutchison is now waiting to go to federal prison because of bribery. All right? We got to find out who the bondholders are. 4 years ago, I went after trying to find out who the bondholders are, and you know what? They don't want to know. They want to hide behind the scenes, and they want to get the legislators to do what they can. Thankfully for Matt Bishop in the court system, they ended that. I helped Matt Bishop in that case and made sure that the taxpayers got the right job done. But all that was a legislative heist, and that's what started it, was that amendment that got put on in 2018. All the newspapers covered that. And you know what? Right now, legislators left and need to be held accountable still today for their actions.
I think to answer your question, I think there's a good chance that it's upheld in court. I mean, the issue is that from the very beginning, does the judge have the authority to decide what the tax is going to be? They've never been given that authority in the Constitution. So I think that it'll be upheld, and this lower court decision will be upheld in the Supreme Court, and I think that we will end up being able to collect the $18 fee back. And on top of that, one of the things that we've done legislatively is work with ADEQ to get them to agree to basically forgive all of their side of the debt. So at least that portion of it will, whatever happens, that portion of it should be returned because we fix that legislatively. That whole thing's a mess, and honestly, it's a situation where the bondholders have kind of a sweet deal where you have an organization that can't declare bankruptcy, that if a judge has really had the ability to force you to increase, then there's no, I mean, it's basically an investment without any risk. And that whole situation needs to be amended and changed.
Where's Fred Wold? He has the answer. He knew the question was going to be asked. In reality, I would agree that this is likely to be upheld and we'll get our money back. Actually, though, Boone County is going to get less than the other two counties, if I recall correctly. I think they get less than $16, but we're going to get money back. It was wrong to start with for the same reasons that Brian said. There was something amiss, and people have been held accountable, but we, the taxpayer, should not suffer because of one or two people.
I have to be honest, I don't know that I'll ever receive $1 from anything like that. You know, it all comes down to the corruption. They're going to hide it somewhere else, they're going to take it somewhere else, they're going to put it somewhere else, and we're not going to see anything. What the courts decide, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not. What I am is a sergeant major that believes in integrity. What I can understand or what I can't see when something is either upheld or something is flipped over, I don't see it at the back side. I don't see it on this side. And anymore, a testament to the belief in the governmental system. There's 12,000 people in Harrison. There's 100 people here. We've got to instill integrity back into this system right here, so there's more of you up there.
You talk about something that stunk from the word go was this thing, because it wasn't just state corruption going on, but there were several more that was in the business of pocketing tens of millions of dollars in there. And if they was probably still alive today, they would be going on with some state legislators too to go sit in the big house. With that being said, I kind of agree with Bob. I think that it'll be upheld in the upper courts.
Okay. Now, this is something a little bit different and kind of a nice way to end. We'll start with Mr. Ballinger and say something nice about your four opponents.
Sure. Well, I like this. It's fun. So I'll start. I mean, and honestly, I think we don't have a minute to do it. It's going to be fast. Bob's got good hair. Honestly, like there's no doubt when I first met Bob that he loves the city of Harrison and that he loves the chamber, the work that he's doing there. I think the passion that Ted has is great. In fact, the words that he say, I think he just is running for the wrong Senate district, but I think that they're exactly right. And, well, I'll think of something for Keith eventually. Now, Keith is a good friend of mine. I mean, Keith is a good guy, and I've often said, and I'll say it here, I think he's the most qualified person for this seat besides me. So I think Keith is a good man. And Senator King, he's passionate. And honestly, sometimes you don't see enough of passion.
Hair. Bob is educated and articulate. I would have to agree that Ted is passionate. Little doubt about that. Keith, I've got to work with since he's been our representative here in southern Boone County. Keith is a gentleman. And Brian is bold.
I think that was a halfway.
Yeah.
You still have 30 days.
But I said something nice about each one.
Here's the bottom line. Something nice about each one of them, they're Americans. You know, and I fought for them too. I don't have anything personal against anybody that toes the line and does the right thing by the people. What I have, my passion, it comes from the people that I deployed with that didn't come home. that I deployed with that came home broke. You know, that's where my passion comes from. You can't buy that at a store and you can't learn it at a school. Okay? So the nice things I'm going to say about them, they're Americans. And for old people, they look good.
How can you beat that? Old, good-looking American. I mean, geez, that's just nice. Brian, you know, ever since I worked with him when he was senator down there, he has always stood up for me on some issues that we had down there. I appreciated his hard work. Bob, we've worked together on some legislation. We've helped craft some of it to try to get it through, and I enjoyed working with him. Bob Largent, enjoyed working with him, CEO, some projects he's having done here. And I don't think there's a better word than passionate to fit Ted Walker. And he speaks right straight from the heart, and there's no better way to speak than straight from the heart.
Well, since they brought up hair, and then I brought up earlier, I have relatives down here in Boone County. Some of my relatives down here on the King line, I won't say who they are, you know, you know them, they have jet black Elvis Presley hair. So obviously, looking at me, you know that they must have got it from their mother's side, because they didn't get it from the King side. You know, I want to say that the best thing when Teddy Roosevelt, he talked about the comment about stepping up in the arena. You know, it takes that. Everybody steps up and runs for office. I was Republican chairman 24 years ago, and recruiting people to run for office was one of the hardest jobs to do, and all these guys doing it. And I'm going to blanket that, and then the second blanket I'm going to do, compliment, is to say that right now, the biggest compliment I say with these guys is that I've known them and participated in forums is they take a lot of pressure off me being the orneriest guy up here. So.
All right. Okay, now I want to remind everybody that this forum has been videotaped, and Brandon Cohn, sitting next to me, has assured me that it will be on the internet sometime in the next couple of days, and we will have a link to it on our website, harrisondaily.com. I want to thank all y'all for being here tonight, and I want to thank everybody here for coming, and let's give the candidates a round of applause.
See you guys.
Have a good one.
Good job.